This wasn't at all the video I had planned for this week, but sometimes life has other plans. By now, y'all have likely noticed that when I'm feeling big feelings, I paint dark water. This tiny canvas is no exception. Many, many years ago, when I was in art school, there was a fascinating woman that was in a lot of my classes named Geralda. She wasn't typical college age at all. In fact, she'd already lived a lifetime or 10 before I ever met her. She'd already completed college, been married, had a daughter, divorced, had various careers, and lived in multiple countries all over the world. It was nothing at all for her to be reminded of something and say, "Oh, yeah, I tried that when I lived in Greece." She wasn't at our university for a degree. She audited all of her classes. She didn't want a grade, she just wanted studio access to learn and collaborate. And yet, even though she didn't have any sort of true consequences for any of the classes, she worked harder than anyone. Her talent was unmatched. Our professors often learned from her instead of the other way around. She knew a little bit about absolutely everything and was a sponge for information. We spent long days together in the printmaking studio, carving linoleum blocks or trying to get our etchings to print evenly. After multiple misprints in a row, when the rest of us would be frustrated and cussing, she would calmly and cheerfully laugh it off. The first few times, I thought she might be nuts. But then one day she explained, "I learn more from my mistakes than my successes. The most important art I make ends up in the trash. That is where the lessons are." Mind blown. She was right. Mistakes are how we learn what didn't work, so we know how to pivot, adjust, and make improvements. I paint over canvases all the time now without regret. I realized recently that the background for an upcoming art show piece was all wrong, so I mixed a new color and changed it. I also realized the entire left side of another painting had a really poor composition. And yes, I could be frustrated by the hours lost, or I could be glad I found the error, fixed it, and will ultimately be happier with the finished painting. Attitude is everything. I graduated and didn't see Geralda for a bit. Then I would think about her one day and just happen to run into her at Plaza Art a week later. I would often see her at the monthly art crawls downtown, where she was frequently an exhibitor. In fact, the last time I saw her was at an art crawl where she was the exhibit. She was behind glass in the gallery's front window giving a drawing demo. I caught up with her afterwards, and we both agreed we should get together for lunch. Unfortunately, her bag and phone were still locked in the gallery office. My phone was dead, and neither of us had a pen or paper on us. Social media wasn't really her thing, but since we ran into each other often enough, we just said, we'll get each other's numbers the next time. Except life happens. And at the time, I had a toddler and a terminally ill parent, so I didn't make it to any art crawls for a bit. It just wasn't in the cards. Then the pandemic happened, and art crawls ceased for a good while. I've been at several art events lately and realized that I haven't seen her or heard her name anywhere. I decided I needed to track her down, or at least find out if she had moved to some other exotic location. Instead, I found her obituary. She passed away 5 years ago, only a few months after I saw her the last time. Aside from the shock of her passing, I was also shocked by her age. I knew she was considerably older than me, but I didn't realize she was nearly 80. She absolutely defied age. I'm going to attribute that to her positive attitude and absolute unending consumption for life. Now, I have not told you this story to gain sympathy. I was not her family, nor was I amongst her closest friends. They are the ones deserving of that. But there are still 3 important lessons that I want to get across. 1, Geralda's lesson on failure. Some of your most productive work will end up in the trash. And that's okay. You will still learn something from each and every mistake. Even errors and setbacks can be gifts. Failure is an immediate and effective teacher. 2, you never know the impact you may have on someone. Geralda was like a legitimate fairy. She popped in and out of my life at random and brief moments, and I swear I learned the perfect piece of information from her each time, even if I didn't know I needed it. Whether you see someone a handful of times a year or even complete strangers, you can be a gift to them and have a lifelong impact. And 3, well, this lesson isn't from Geralda. It's from me. Reach out. You know that person that's been crossing your mind lately? the one you keep meaning to go get coffee with, the one you keep thinking about for no explicable reason, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. In loving memory of Geralda, 1940 to 2018.